All right, all right, all right. We are firing up on the live stream here. I want to thank everybody for tuning in as we get our little technical difficulties ironed out here. But this is Tyler James, and on this special broadcast, we're going to be talking about strategies that power a big Kickstarter launch. And I have a great guest joining me for a guest on here.
Hello.
In just a moment. My guest today is the owner, writer, editor, and artist of Mount Olympus Comics, who is which is an imprint that brings to life mythology-inspired, female-driven superheroes and villains. And this is an imprint whose titles include Samurai of Oz, Valkyrie Survivors, and Patriotica. And he is a veteran of 17 Kickstarter campaigns, and his launches routinely raise over 6 figures on Kickstarter with the support of over 1,000 backers per launch, which is pretty amazing. Welcome to Comics Launch, Ron Z. How you doing, Ron?
Hey, good, thank you, and thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. Longtime fan of the show.
Yes, I'm very excited to get into it and to talk about your current launch, which is for Patriotica. And I love to just always start with just sharing with people that are potentially new to the Mount Olympus Comics universe. Just tell us a little bit more about this title and the launch that you currently have up on Kickstarter.
Yeah, Patriotica superhero comic. She is a superhero that is inspired by Greek mythology, and of course, there's a very patriotic character that is who bonds with the goddess Athena, or a descendant of the goddess Athena, and they're doing all the superhero stuff, fighting gods, monsters, and demons. And I try to keep all our Kickstarters exciting, with lots of different things going on each Kickstarter, making each one different, and having some of the most popular and really just cool artists. And I also try to bring new artists every time too, artists that I don't see very often, or artists that I come across for the first time. That aren't on any other publisher Kickstarters or books. And yeah, it's just a thing. I always felt the modern comics needed a little more sprucing up. And I picked up some comics and I was thinking, oh, this would be so much better if it was a little bit more like the 90s. So I kind of have a lot of 90s influence on my books.
Yeah, I'm definitely a child of the 90s comics boom, Image Comics, and when those all came out. So I definitely see some of that influence in the work that you're offering, but also one of the things that the 90s was sort of known for was really pushing the envelope in terms of covers and different kinds of styles of covers and things like that. And so I think we're going to get into a lot of what you have to offer on your Kickstarter page. Curious though, 17 launch. What are some that you see as maybe have evolved since that very first launch that you did, which I believe was also for the first launch for Patriotica, correct?
Right. Yes, Patriotica was our first one. Yeah, lots changed. I look back at that campaign and I'm always thinking, what can I change to that campaign? I mean, being my first campaign, I really didn't know what I was doing. I did do a lot of research. I did do look at a lot of things online, but there wasn't much back then. And most of the information I found back then was not comic book related information. It was for board game Kickstarters, for video game Kickstarters, or for tech stuff. But I did do a lot of research. I backed 100 Kickstarters before I launched my first one. So I wanted to make sure I had, good experience with it, kind of like a little bit of a karma cushion, and just try to see what worked for other people and what didn't work, and try to apply it to my first Kickstarter. And so that's basically what I did going into that first one. And to this day, I still see what other Kickstarters are going on and what people are doing, and try to see, okay, well, this is working, this is cool, this might work for me, and what can I do different? What can I make? What can I do in my Kickstarter to be different, but still something that people will like? And sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. I had stuff before Vanishing Tears which I called Evolving Tears, and it was something I was trying. It's very similar to Vanishing Tears, but it was more complex. And the fans told me it's too complex. I don't, I'm losing. I don't get it. So, each time I changed it. And so, okay, got rid of that. I tried a different thing. Vanishing Tears is the newest thing, and I think they're a lot simpler, much more easy to, much easier to understand. But in the beginning, it was just straightforward. It was just like, here's these 5 covers, go, and that's how my first Kickstarter was. And I mean, I think I made 47 on the first Kickstarter. So, it's also, people like the content. I think a lot of us missed that 90s comics, especially when I first did my first Kickstarter. Now there's a lot more, thank God. But when I first did my first Kickstarter, there wasn't. And, it was just something that people were looking for, people were missing. And Patriotica brings that, Valkyrie Saviors brings that, and eventually Samurai of Oz, which was my 3rd title after 2 years, I think. That brings that. And then I'll have a new title coming up that also more of the same. But yeah, it's just something people were missing, and I wanted to bring it to the table, and just apply my own spin to it.
Yeah, and I think that was an important point that you made, that before you launched your first Kickstarter, you backed a lot of projects on the platform, and I still, even to this day, I do talk to some people who are mulling over their first launch. And one of the questions I ask them is, well, have you backed any projects on Kickstarter? And when the answer is no, that's one of the first things I encourage them to do, because if you don't have the experience of what it's like to be a backer, it's going to be much harder for you to deliver the kind of experience that you would want yourself to experience on a Kickstarter campaign. So I love that you shared that, and that in the lead up to all the success that you've had, you did your research and you experienced and probably got a lot of ideas from just having that backer experience and seeing what other creators that were doing cool things were doing. One of the core principles that we teach on this show since the very beginning is that part of the thing that makes a Kickstarter crowdfunding campaign special and a lot more effective than simply just putting a comic book for sale online on an online shop is when you're able to sort of turn your campaign into what feels like an event. And when I look at your campaigns, I see you doing a bunch of things to truly make your campaign feel like an event and something that you need to stay glued to all campaign long. Do you sort of see that as your approach? And what are some of the ways that you sort of make your campaigns really feel like an event?
Oh, absolutely. I feel like being an event is what makes it more worthwhile. Everyone is excited and see what's new, what's coming next, what's going to happen, and this is what I try to do in each Kickstarter to make it more interesting and keep people coming back, and maybe hopefully spreading the word. Oh, did you see what they just did? Oh, look what's new. Oh, that's cool. I want to get that out there. Because a lot of times you've got Kickstarters where they just launch and it's like, okay, see you in 30 days. And they'll show up in the last day and maybe do a video, and that's it. And for me, I'm there every day. I take Saturdays off, except for the last week. So Saturdays is my one day where I'm like, okay, I gotta take a break just for myself and be with my family or whatever. But every other day of the campaign running, I'm on it, from morning to night. Promoting, advertising, and creating the next thing for the next day, making sure everything's working. Customer service, I mean, that's a big thing. Some campaigns I've run, I've asked questions to people and they don't get back to me. And I'm like, okay, well, it's just a good thing to be engaged and get your people into it. So by doing these events, I feel like it gives people a reason to come back and see, and just be excited for what your product is. And so that's why I try to always keep it interesting. Like you said, it's an event thing from the beginning to the end. I mean, some people have that early bird special, and that's a great thing. But once it ends, you still got 29 days to do something. So that's why I've got things always mixing it up, different things for each day.
And one of the things that I noticed on your campaign is that you sort of have a daily news section that's recording your sort of the high points or your key updates over your campaign. I think that's how a lot of people tend to use the update section. I'm curious, like, have you always sort of done that on the page itself, or is that something that like you found that it's gets people, or it works better if you can have that information right there on the page. I think that's something that a lot of creators go back and forth with when they're like, all right, what belongs on the Kickstarter page, and how to and where do I put like stretch goals or other things like that, while at the same time not completely overwhelming the person that's just hitting this page for the very first time.
Right, and there is a balance to it, but going through the updates, I found for myself, and again, I learned this from other campaigns. There was one campaign I backed, and they were doing daily updates. And while it was cool, after a while, it was kind of annoying because I was waiting for my work emails, and so I'd have all their update emails, and it was just like, okay, I can't check every day, and so I felt that daily emails is just too much. I mean, just for anything, for me anyways. Any like stores emails me every day, it's just too much. A couple times a week, that's fine, and that's what I do. So I do only one update a week, more or less, for my Kickstarter backers. Just, hey, this is what came out this week, this is what's new. And also I time it with my Sunday now or nevers, because that way they know, hey, you've got 24 hours for this cover that's only going to be in this Kickstarter, and it's not coming back for the post campaign. So you got to get it or it's gone. It's kind of another event, basically, that I have on.
So let's break these down for us. I just put out a new strategy guide. And every couple of years I'll put out a Kickstarter strategy guide that just focuses on strategies that I see creators working in. And one of the things that was a development since the last strategy guide was actually the Kickstarter add-ons. That, was something that people have been offering add-ons for forever, but it was very clunky and kludgy on Kickstarter until they rolled out an actual add-on feature.
Right.
And beyond just saying, okay, you can add this to your pledge, I mentioned that some creators are taking it and running with it and doing even, building strategies on top of those add-ons. And so, a now or never strategy, like, I feel like that would be something that would have been really tough to pull off, and organize and keep track of prior to Kickstarter add-ons. But with that built in now to the platform, you can do that. So like, let's talk, now or never covers. Like what are we talking about here? How do you approach these? What is this strategy?
Yeah, so now or never cover is a 24-hour cover that I will not publish after the campaign ends. So you're not going to be able to get it in the post-campaign survey. It's going to be limited, however many people get it. I'm going to print about 4 or 5 more extra just in case the damage shipping or whatever. I want for myself. And so it's going to be a very limited number, and people like the limited number. Plus, I promote it on the day. I mean, I'll tell people it's coming tomorrow on all my social media, but I don't show the cover until the day of. So it's kind of like, here it is, got 24 hours, and go. And so the reason I do it on Sunday is because Monday, the start of the new week, it kind of rolls right into an important day. For me, Monday and Tuesday are like important campaign days. So Sunday, people are rushing for that now or never cover. And then at the end of it, because there's people that come in the last minute. And so they'll come in the last minute, pick it up, and then they'll see what the new Monday stuff is. What's new for this week, what's coming, what's happening, or what's the the big deal coming on Monday. But with the now or never covers, I have a really talented artist every time, a really beautiful cover, and usually it's a new book. I think I've done a new book on every single one, so that way more incentive for people to pick it up. And you got pinup book, patriotic pinup book, a patriotic art book, things like that.
How do you go about deciding what covers should be like the now or nevers versus the base covers or whatever?
That's definitely a big obstacle. And sometimes I'm even debating it the night before, where I've already got all the graphics made and everything. And I'm like, you know what? This might be better next week. Or I might, let me try a different artist. Or I might want to use this. Because, I really want to honor that now or never, where it's gone, it's gone. I'm not going to, use it for anything later. So it's something where I'll be looking at all the covers I have. And there's a lot of covers I don't end up using on a particular campaign. I'll have them for the next time. That's the thing you've seen. There's a lot of covers on my campaign, but that's what my fans want. That's what my fans ask for.
Mm.
And so I'm like more than happy to do it because it also lets me give more work to more artists. You
Yeah.
know, I've got about 40 artists, maybe even 50 on this campaign involved. You know, doing the covers, doing the line art, doing the inking, flatting, colors, letterer, you know, for all the different covers. And the benefit of doing so many covers is I give a lot of different artists work. And, you know, I get to I give my fans variety too. So there might be some fans that only pick up a couple. And then I've got, of course, my fans that pick up every single book. So it just gives more to all my fans, having all the different variety. And the Now or Never is just kind of like for those people that like the chase and the limited. You know, if you want something that's really limited, it's kind of exciting. You got to get it or it's gone, you know?
Yeah.
If you miss it, you missed it.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, so you've found that like the excitement, it adds excitement to the campaign. It obviously boosts in funding when something new is available. It keeps people tuned in to the campaigns. Um, what are the challenges or downsides potentially of, you know, doing like these Now or Never covers? Do you see
Um,
any?
yeah, I mean, one of the downsides is, you know, by honoring it, if it's a really successful cover, I mean, the one I did last week was just, I thought it'd do okay. So I'll pick like an above average cover.
Hmm.
Obviously, I'm kind of hesitant to put like a cover that I think is going to do extremely well because, you know, like, first of all, my fans might not be able to tune in on Sunday or, you know, I mean, to come in on Sunday and pick it up, or they might be just something where that's not a good time for them. And, you know, then they'll be like, wow, that's like my favorite artist and I really missed it. So I can see I have had incidents with my Bag of Mystery where it's much harder to get a cover.
Hmm.
Where I've had my fans complain, like, why'd you put this artist in there? That's my favorite. I collect every single one. It's going to be so hard for me to get that cover now. So that's why I'm like, okay, well, let me try to use artists that are popular, but that I at least have at least one other cover from that artist, either in my Etsy shop, which I do updates every week,
Mhm.
or on the campaign itself, so people won't feel too terrible about it. Like, okay, I missed that cover, but I got this other one from that artist. Um, so for a perfect example, the one I had this, I think I had it Now or Never this past Sunday. I have that artist with a cover today that I just added to the campaign. So this way, you know, okay, I might have missed that. Or if they really like that one, and you know, here's another cover from this artist. Great.
Yeah.
You know, so
Yeah.
that's the downside.
Definitely. You mentioned your Bag of Mystery. What's that? What do you do? What do you do with that?
So Bag of Mystery is I think it's 8 books. Yeah, it's 8 books in a bag, and so they're 8, very limited. So I usually limit number to 10. It might be 20. So they have a very low print run. Sometimes it's a variant of one of the main tier covers. So it might be a topless version of one of the main tier covers, or vice versa. If it's topless on the main cover, it's the only way to get the non-topless version is inside the Bag of Mystery. It might be a holofoil, whereas it's not anywhere else in the campaign. And so I make about I think it's 150. I forget what the total number is. And when you buy one, you get one of those bags, and it'll have one of those 8 books inside of it. So yeah, you know, if you buy more bags, you have a better chance of getting whatever book it is you're looking for.
But are all of the covers in the Bag of Mystery only Bag of Mystery covers?
Yes. So it's only those covers. So you know, you're not going to get some other random thing. You're going to get one of those covers for sure. So I mean, if you like all of them, you're going to get one of them.
Yeah.
And you know, if you, I always encourage people to come to my Olympus Legions Facebook group if they want to trade, because I have had people go there and be like, hey, I've got this cover, but I was looking for this one. And you know, I've had fans that have told me, so I'll message them and be like, hey, that cover you're looking for, someone's offering it for trade or for sale. And so that's why I have the Facebook group, Mount Olympus Legion's Facebook group. You can go in there and you know, you just post up, hey, I've got this cover, I'm looking to trade, or I'm looking to buy this cover that was in the Bag of Mystery. Did anyone get this one? And then lots of times people have, you know, been able to get that, complete their collection or get that particular one. Like I said, that one with that artist that people really wanted, that was a case where people came to the Facebook group and asked for it. So it's just another fun thing, you know. Yeah. It's that random chance, and you know, a very limited number. So you're getting a decent deal because it is such a limited number book.
Yeah, I love that. And I love that, you know, you're honoring what you're saying. Like, you're not just like, okay, well, on the side, I will sell you this, but which then takes away from the truly limited nature of things.
Right.
But you're also, you know, providing some fan service there of saying, hey, you know, we have this really cool community where people will swap covers or do other things, and that, I guess, like I think really would help. Um, Overall, like the collectors community of your stuff. I think that's great. um you know, in talking about variant covers and things like that, um it reminded me, it made me think of how, you know, oftentimes, you know, I'll talk to aspiring comic book artists, and some of them will say, well, yeah, I want to be a comic book artist, but actually I just want to be a cover artist. And you know, the publisher in me had always said, sort of had an old way of thinking, that where I just kind of said to myself, well, good luck with that. And I, you know, traditionally I thought, you know, you don't become an in-demand cover artist without first becoming known for your sequential work. Like J. Scott Campbell, had he never done Gen 13 and
Right.
built up like such a massive following with that, like he wouldn't be J. Scott Campbell in demand like J. Scott Campbell. And that also, you know, historically there haven't been all that many cover only jobs out there, but I'm sort of seeing, like with Kickstarter and the variant boom, that's might be different thinking. Like if
Oh
you're a
yeah,
really good artist,
there's
especially
plenty
in
of
the pinup
artists.
style.
Yeah,
Yeah,
there's plenty of artists that make a living just from doing covers now. Like
yeah,
I know a lot of them personally, and they are all back-to-back covers. They're, you know, they're booked solid for years or longer, and just to have covers nonstop. I mean, because you know, there's so many people doing Kickstarters now that you can, you know, get jobs left and right,
yeah,
doing the covers. And you know, and if you become popular, then you're just going to get that much more. Especially if you're doing original art, that's also beneficial, because if you have original, you get paid for the cover, and then you're able to sell your original art of your cover to the fans. And if it's a big popular one, you can sell it for higher amounts too. I say that because I work with a lot of artists.
yeah, yeah. And so that's definitely a changing landscape, but I think it's a good thing. But uh, for someone like you, it's probably, you know, nice to have your sort of stable of artists that you that are coming back. And I do see some names that are pretty familiar from campaign to campaign, but it sounds like you also make it a practice to be constantly seeking out new talent, looking for hot artists. Like where do you go to, and how are you discovering sort of new artists that you want to work with?
Yeah, I actually made it a hobby where I would spend at least 2 hours a day for a long time. Now not so much, because I actually have artists coming to me now, and it's wonderful.
Yeah.
But for a long time, I was spending at least 2 hours a day browsing all the art sites, and there's just so many art sites. You know, ArtStation, DeviantArt, even the social media pages you can scroll through,
Mm.
Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and you just have to know where to look. There's a lot of Facebook groups where there's artists looking for work. You just go in there and there's all the pages. I was just like shocked.
Yeah.
Like there's so many artists looking for work, and it's just a matter of spending the time looking for it. And there's just really some wonderful talent. So for each of my series, I try to do something different. With Patriotic, I try to bring all the A-list, celebrity artists and stuff.
Mm.
Um, and then for Samurai of Oz, I always try to bring as many new people as I can. Like every single one of my campaigns, I would say about 75% of the artists in that campaign are artists I never worked with before.
Mm.
And a lot of them are like first-time cover artists. So that's something that I try to do with Samurai of Oz. And then Valkyrie Saviors is kind of a balance. I have some of the new artists and some of the, like I'd say about 50-50 is what I aim for with Valkyrie Saviors, where it's half big name artists, half unknown artists. Whereas Patriotica is more like 75% or 90% big name artists and 10% lesser known artists.
Yeah. I'm curious. So, like, do you know, like, how many unique covers? And by unique, I mean like if it's the same art but on a different foil, or if it's the same art but it's metal. Like, do you know for this campaign how many unique individual covers you're offering?
For this campaign, I want to say there it's closing in on, if you're not counting like the topless, semi-topless, all that stuff, there's
No, I am.
probably
I'm like, because like, and where I'm kind of getting at that this is I think a lot of people will see this campaign, they see the top number, you know, big, but like just putting in the order for and then receiving the order, I have to imagine from with your printer is, you know, that's a big job, right?
yeah,
Like,
oh yeah. They get it's a lot of work for the printer for sure.
yeah,
Because you know the huge variety of books that they're printing and then fulfilling. So it is. I would say God, I don't want to. Yeah, I don't know. It's over 50 for sure. It's over 50 for sure. I
yeah,
mean, like I said, I've got 50 artists involved, but you know, some of them did more than one cover, and then you've got the topless, and all that stuff. So it is a large variety, but a lot of them are sets. So you know it makes it easier for the printer because they're all going to go together,
mm,
as opposed to you know if they're not sets. I think I'm leaning more towards sets with each campaign, whereas before I had you know 5 different books, and that was the only way you could get it. You know you have to get each individual book, but now you get the full set, and you don't have to worry about oh did I get that one? Did I get the topless? Did I get the semi-topless? No, here's a set. You
yeah.
know, and that's also the bigger camp. The top tiers, you know, have way more of each thing, and of course the highest tier, which is currently sold out, has everything that when it launched from when it launched. And you know, all the new add-ons they're not included, but there's always you know more stuff for the top tiers to add on and to look at, and there's a lot of perks for the top tiers too.
Yeah, awesome. And I'll also mention, since we got a few folks watching live, I know some of these creators are Rob Multari, Alton Simpson, are creators that follow you and your work and have been inspired by what you've done. Feel free if there are questions or specific questions that people want to put in for Ron, we'll take those as well. I'm curious. So, you know, working with 50 artists and obviously like the ability to work with talent, give jobs to like put, you know, fire up the community of artists and things like that, is a great benefit of offering so many, you know, art opportunities for artists. Like, do you feel like, you know, or you've found like the point of diminishing returns on a variant cover? Like, how you, like from the economic standpoint, like every cover you add, yes, it potentially opens up to more backers and things like that, but there's costs, like artists have different price points. I'm also curious, like, and you don't have to sort of reveal any artists covers or anything, but like is your approach to sort of offer like, hey, this is kind of like the set range that we do covers in, or are you basically just getting artists rates and going with that, or is there a negotiation involved? I'm curious how you handle that, because obviously, you know, even campaigns that raise 6 figures, well, the more you raise, the more backers you have, the more costs are associated with the campaign. And you still need to run this like a business. How is sort of your approach been with, all right, how do I make sure that I'm not, you know, I'm making a good investment in the covers that I'm making?
Right. Okay. So yeah, I've had some campaign runners that I talked to that were you know first timers or you know early on in their campaign, and they wanted to hire some of the big guns who are you know very expensive. Some of the you know the more popular artists are much more expensive. I would say in some cases even 10 times as much as you know some artists that's just very
Yeah.
starting. And while it could be good to have them, I mean it's good publicity. At the end of the day, you might be shooting yourself in the foot because I had one guy. So I'm not going to name names; it's just numbers.
Yeah.
But he had hired a $1,000 cover artist, and his campaign only raised I think 7,500. But you know, then you consider all the printing and shipping and the percentage that Kickstarter takes, and all the other artists that he had. So he told me he ended up losing money, and so I mean it made sense. And it's you know yeah sure that one cover sold great, but I don't even remember. I never asked him if it sold enough to cover that $1,000 because you
Yeah.
first of all have to sell at least enough to cover that one you know that
Yeah.
artist price, and then the printing, and then you know the profit to pay for the next thing or for whatever you're if you're making a living. I mean a lot of people are doing Kickstarter just as, on the side. But for me, I mean, the comics are all, it's a living for me.
Yeah.
The Kickstarter and the Etsy, those are the two things I do 24/7.
Yeah.
So I do think when you're first starting, you got to be kind of wary of having too many of the big names. I mean, having one big name or two, that's great. That's wonderful. Do it, but I think having too many, that particular person that had only made 7,500 had hired several big names. And so I know, just crunching the numbers in my head, I was thinking, wow, I don't think it's calculated shipping and the percentage that Kickstarter takes and eventually tax you have to pay and all these things. So I was like, ouch, that's probably going to hurt.
Yeah, it's something that it's nice that we as creators, especially for the writers out there, to know that, like, even if you're just starting, one way to add instant credibility to your work is to work with professionals, work with the most professional people that you can find, or people that already have established. That does add a certain instant credibility to you and your work. But the challenge is, just because an artist, a big name artist, is on your Kickstarter, does not necessarily mean that that's going to let the entire comic book industry is going to be buzzing about that when there's 250, 300 other Kickstarter campaigns going, and you yourself as a creator might not even have like a megaphone in your social media, your email list, your ability to even get the word out that cover is. And I also know that most busy artists do not include extensive pimping and promoting of your Kickstarter in with their cover fees. Like they're exchanging, their art for your money, and that's kind of the end of it. And if they retweet it, great, but don't expect them to be, pushing it like it's their project, right?
Right, and that's another risk, is if you're spending that kind of money on an artist and they don't share it, and even if they share it, it's not guaranteed. I mean, I've had really big name artists that was expensive, and they shared it, in a nice way. Because if you just hit the reshare button, Facebook is, at least with Facebook, it's really awful. You're not going to see it till like a week, 2 weeks later. If you just hit the reshare button. If you write a few words, then I've always found that you're going to see it. People are going to see it. But if you just hit the reshare button, it's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
So even with that, it still did poorly. I mean, I think I didn't even make enough to cover that particular artist with that particular cover. And so it's always a risk. And it's more. You've also got to be the one promoting it. You've also got to be the one that directs, has a good idea for the cover and also directs it, right? And there's always another risk where that artist you might have another Kickstarter nowadays. This wasn't a risk back in the day when I first started, but now you might have a really great cover by a great artist, but that same artist has another cover on another Kickstarter. And I've had people tell me, oh, you know what, I'm jumping ship. And it's always like, because my favorite artist is on that one.
Yeah.
So that's always a big fear. I mean, that's always a risk. It's, again, another risk. But you just got to keep at it. And just try not to put all your in one basket. Put all your what? Something all your
eggs, all your
eggs.
comics.
Yeah, eggs now, right? Especially now, you don't want to put all your eggs in one basket.
Yeah.
So you want to have more than, not just rely on that one artist for your success. You got to have, a few. And 50 covers. That's kind of, that's just the way my Kickstarters have evolved. But like I said, I look back at my first Kickstarter and I'm like, man, I got that with five or six covers. It's a lot less artist management, and again, with the printers, it was like, here's 5 images, go forth and make my covers. And now it actually takes me days to get all the files ready for them to go to print.
Yeah, that's definitely something that I was thinking. So, next on my list of questions, but also Rob Maltari sort of asked it, is, it seems like the importance to deliver well on these campaigns would be finding the right printer, also finding a printer that doesn't kill you on their cover change fee or plate change fee.
Right.
Historically, the first overseas offset printer I used, it was like $125 per cover that you'd offer extra. Well, that would really add up as well if you're doing 50 covers, right?
Right.
And so finding the right cover or right printer that is willing to do all this and work with you on this is key. Rob asks, do you use one printer for all your printing needs, or are you using various vendors for your specialty covers and prints?
Okay, so hey Rob, first of all, hi, and yes, I do use multiple printers for the specialty covers, for the regular books, even for the hard. If I have hardcovers, I don't have hardcover on this campaign just because that the hardcover printer has been taking longer and longer and kind of, you know, pushes back the delivery deadline. So I've kind of cut back on doing it for a live campaign. But yes, I have a different printer for stretch goals, different items, different printer for specialty cover, different specialty covers. So I've got like a metal printer, I've got a lenticular printer, and then the standard book. So it's a little more involved. But if you sometimes if you try to do all in one shop, it can be very, very expensive. One of the printers I work with, I wanted to get a bookmark made, and he wanted 75 cents per bookmark, or I think it was 75 cents a bookmark. And I went to another printer, and it was 1,000 bookmarks for $25. So I was like, no, come on, the price of 25 bookmarks, or maybe 30, whatever it is, versus 1,000 that I'm going to be able to use at conventions and all the leftover prints. I've got maybe too many. That's another thing I'm trying to find a solution for. But regardless, you have to shop around to get the best price. So that's why I'm using multiple printers. Or they might not offer all the cool things that you want, but they might do a really good book. So they do a good job with the book, but you want to get something from someone else. And so you do have to kind of rely on multiple printers. Obviously, it would be much easier to be with one printer, but I think it just your cost would be much higher than if you're doing some stuff elsewhere. Also, deadline-wise, if they're very busy, that printer, then you got to wait for them to get to that next item. So I think it's better to split it up.
Yeah, it's the holy grail is sort of finding like just that one vendor that you could work with that would do everything for you.
Yes, it is like a dream.
Unfortunately, anytime I've had a vendor that's tried to be that, they've quickly imploded under the weight of the demands of the comic book industry. So it's almost like it's safer for everybody if you have a couple reliable vendors, but you're also willing, like, not, again, as you said, not put all your eggs in one basket. So this is another question. Alton Simpson is another creator who has over the past couple of years really taken his launches up a notch, and he's been implementing some of the similar strategies, and works probably, I could imagine his audience would cross over probably with Mount Olympus audience. He asks, what do you do with your leftover stuff from Kickstarter campaigns?
So if you mean like the stretch goal stuff, I have boxes and boxes and boxes of, but I do try to move some of it at conventions. And something I'm going to be doing very soon is just creating new stretch goal packs using all that stuff to either give away or sell at conventions, or sometimes give away if I put it like in a box or whatever for a big package. Individual bookmarks I've thrown into people's when they come by at my Etsy shop. There's been a couple times where I'll grab some bookmarks and just be like, okay, here, put these in those people's book orders, just so I have it. But that is another thing that I'm trying to find a solution for, because there is quite a few leftovers, mainly because I might only need 300, but it's so much cheaper to get 1,000 versus 100 packs, because they offer 100, 250, or 1,000. And so it's like, 250, it's even more expensive to get 200 and 100 versus getting 1,000. And so I do have a tremendous amount of stretch goal items sitting around that I'm trying to find a solution for. I mean, if you know something, let me know, because that is something that I've been trying to work.
So one thing that I've used to try to move those is I've done, and this is something that definitely would work with you given your catalog, and I think would probably work for Alton as well, given that he has a couple of series now under his belt, is we've done Comics Tribe blind boxes, and we say the blind boxes will include at least one hardcover, at least one trade, and and then some variant covers and swag. And that swag is what do I have left over from past Kickstarter campaigns, from random so it could be random campaigns. So it could
Okay,
be,
so your blind box is basically like my bag of mystery.
Yeah.
So, I've done that. I've thrown a couple of bookmarks in there.
Yeah.
But, I've got so much stuff. But that is a good idea, is to do like a bag of mystery that has swag from previous campaigns.
Yeah, and we brand it as the brand, right? As ours is a comics tribe, and we kind of have a cool. I use Pack Lane, and we've got a cool box design for that. But it's something that all of our different products could fit in there, and everything could work. So that's a good way to sort of move the rare variant that just didn't sell, or you just have a couple of extras and for damages or whatever, but not sort of blow up the retail value or resale value of it because you're selling it, and then also get rid of those different things. And yeah, like I feel you on those price point things. We did a 5-print set for a Kickstarter that I'll be fulfilling very soon, and and we sold like 350 or we have 350 of them that we need, and 500 was the next was like the tier. It was like 250 or 500. So of course I go with 500, but now I'm gonna have like over 650 extra prints after those sets are done. So yeah, gotta find ways to move them, right?
Right. And I mean, depending on how many conventions you do, I have found a lot of that stuff moves at conventions. You offer it for 50 cents or make a small pack. I did that a couple of times. The stickers in particular, those are pretty easy to move. I think I did Houston Comic Palooza, and that show, I sold so many stickers, more than I sold at any other show. So I was really happy, because I was like, wow, finally, something to do with these stickers. And so I think if you can sell them, it's just you gotta find a way to do it effectively. But I do like your blind box idea, because I do also do bag of mysteries on my Etsy shop, and in those cases I typically have 2 books in the bag, whereas one book is brand new from 8 covers that you're guaranteed to get one of these 8, but the other book is something that came from before. And sometimes it is the chase, a book that people really wanted. Like I said, I always overprint a couple, so I'll throw one of those in there. And then some of the other books are just books that I have a lot of. And okay, well, it's still a cool book. It's just, you're still getting a great deal, because you're getting 2 books now. One that's one of the chase books, and then one of the books that just came before that I have some in storage.
Yes, Smooth Street asks, when you say stretch goals, we mean all the goodies. Yeah, I think that's probably what we were talking about.
Right.
And it's and bookmarks, trading cards, stickers, those are all things. I noticed you're offering acrylic standees as well this time.
I love acrylic standees. Yeah,
is that a new product for you? Or
yes, I'm trying to. They live on my desk. That's like one of my favorite things. The acrylic standees. Mine are double-sided, because I had seen a lot of people had acrylic standees, and I backed the Kickstarter that had one, and when I turned it around, it was all plain white in the back. So that was very disappointing. And so when I talked to the people that I do mine with, they were like, yeah, we do double-sided. And it's actually very thick too. I don't know if the camera does justice, but it's actually quite thick compared to the one that I got from the other campaign.
Yeah. But it comes apart, so it can still ship flat, right?
So that's the great thing. Yeah. You put them like this, and then bubble wrap, and boom, sent. This I can't stretch goal, because even if I order, like, what is it, 500, it still ends up being pretty pricey.
Yeah.
I will eventually, I think, if my Kickstarters keep going how they're going, I'll be able to do acrylic standee stretch goals, because I love them. I think they're great. I've got a bunch all over, like I was saying, I've got them all over my desk. I just did this brand new one this time, which I'm going to be doing on my Etsy shop and in future campaigns, which is basically a cover recreation. So this is one of the covers, the most popular cover on it, or one of the most popular covers on the campaign, and made it into an acrylic standee, double-sided, beautiful and thick. So you can have these on your desk. If you really love the art from a particular cover, it's a standee of the cover, and it's have them sitting on the desk. Or if that's eventually, of course, I'm going to do sets of them. So if you have a connecting cover, or you just have multiple covers of an artist that you like, you have these cool little mini. It's 5-inch tall, they're about 3 inches wide. standee, and it's the same thing. So it's really easy to package and ship, bubble wrap, and you're good to go. And they don't weigh too much. I mean, they're a little bit heavy, but not as heavy as like I think it's about the same weight or similar weight to a poker chip. And I only did the poker chip once, but I was really surprised at how heavy some of those are. And I know some people have the challenge coin.
Yeah.
I imagine, and I know those are heavy. I got that in a couple of my campaigns, and those are pretty heavy that I backed. So it's a great item for a Kickstarter because it's not heavy, they're beautiful, and you get your favorite character on your desk.
And there's nothing like, you know, even if you lose money or just break even on things like T-shirts or standees or things like that are just going to sit there and be a reminder of, hey, I'm a fan of this. Right. Like it can be very, very powerful. So yeah, I love that. Rob also asks, in terms of other things that, or where you might want to be taking things. Have you thought about doing action figures, 3D printed figurines, or statues of your characters?
Yes,
I know Rob has a plush toy that's up on Kickstarter right now.
Right, I saw that. So I probably go after. So I typically don't back anything while my campaign is live, but once it ends, I'm going to be heading over to Rob's and grabbing that too. I did have it in the motion. Let me grab her. Give me 1 second. Here's Patriotica, but nice. This was a custom figure. So this is just, you know, someone who David Fitz. He is super master of doing this, where you know they take a figure and a custom figure and convert it to a character. In this case, Patriotica. And so, of course, this was from my second campaign. So about 4 years ago that I had this one made, along with a few others. And the only reason I have one left, I mean, because they were one-ups, it was pretty expensive. Unfortunately, I really wanted to do action figures, and I had the ball rolling up until until like the beginning of January, this January. I showed the previews to people. People loved it for the new. And this isn't even a prototype. This is just the one that my friend made for me.
Yeah.
Or made for a few myself and some backers. But that particular one was a professional company that a lot of the publishers are using to make action figures. It turns out it's extremely expensive. You know, when I think action figures, I think, you know, okay, going by modern prices, I've seen that in the stores they're about $20 for an action figure. You know, for a really nice one like a Spawn or, you know, Batman action figure that's really nice. But even at $20, I'm like, oh wow, that's, you know, not like it was back in my day. Back in my day when they were, you know, $10. However, the quotes I got after I had everything in motion was about, the printing cost was about $45. And so if it's going to cost $45 to make, you know, it's going to have to cost significantly more to be able, you know, because of tax, Kickstarter fees, backer kit fees.
Shipping, it's going to cost more to ship.
Everything. Yeah. And shipping was expensive too. It was about, they told me about $20 to $25. So right now it's on hold because I got to figure out, will my fans, you know, show up? I got to figure out a way to be like, okay, are they really going to show up for it for me to move forward with this? And, or can I find an alternative? I have had some friends offer solutions. And so I'm like, okay, I do want to do it. It's something I've always wanted, especially statue.
Yeah.
But right now I'm trying to find something where it'll be worthwhile for my fans. And of course, you know, worthwhile to be, I don't want to do a Kickstarter where only a few people show up. You know, I want it to be successful like all my other Kickstarters.
Yeah.
So I want to, I did think about partnering it. Like it was going to be part of my Kickstarter. Like this Kickstarter. It was supposed to launch with this Kickstarter. But then after they had delays, and that started getting me worried. They were saying, oh, it's going to be about 3 more months. And I was like, wait, well, that would delay the book fulfilling. And so
yeah, it gets tough when, especially when it's something that you've never done before, right? You know, and it adds all that those new elements of risk and timing. I think Rob sort of was balancing that as well, and with his, he was going to do plush and figurines, 3D printed figurines, and he sort of had the same thing where, you know, the vendor, like his first vendor that he was looking at that was going to do like 3D printing, it's like, actually I can't do any kind of volume at these. And then he looked at like mass production, and then all of a sudden the costs per
I looked at
skyrocket.
that too, that the small figurines, because I wanted to do that as well.
Yeah.
But again, you have to order like 1,000, and it's like, am I gonna be able to sell? I would probably be able to sell 1,000 of Patriotica, but maybe not like, you know, her sister and all these other characters. So, and I would want to offer where it's like, okay, you've got all these different options. Ideally, it would be like, okay, here's Patriotica, and then here's, you know, a very limited amount of Patriotica in her other suit. That was my ideal for the action figure. But they told me, oh no, you're gonna have to get 500 of each. And so I was like, oh, well, that kind of diminishes, that destroys the whole rarity of, you know, the alternate version. And they're like, well, we could pay it for you, but it would just be paint, you know, it'd be a paint job.
Yeah.
So while it would be a professional and it probably would look cool, again, it adds extra cost because I'd have to pay for that service. So I was like, oh, and then so it makes the figure more expensive for whoever's going to buy it. And, you know, there's just all that risk that it gets damaged in the mail, all these kind of things. So right now I'm still trying to figure out, you know, okay, what's the best way to approach that? I do definitely want to do, especially a statue. My goodness, I would absolutely love to have a patriotic statue, something like this as a statue. I just think would be fantastic. And it is something I'm working towards. I just have to find a solution that will be good for me and for my fans. You know, for me to sell an action figure at $100, I don't know. It's hard pill to swallow. Because they were telling me, the person that they were telling me, so it costs $45 per figure, more or less, and then it was going to be about, he was telling me you should offer it for $65. But if I do that, there's a real possibility that there will be loss, because first, if they don't all sell, and then from the backer kit, Kickstarter fee, the backer kit fee, the Kickstarter fee, and whatever other fee I'm not, you know,
any advertising, any
books, any that get damaged, you know, and of course the time invested, the advertising, the 3D designer, all these other things, you know, that's all extra cost. Yeah. So it's got to be, you know, something where if it's cost $45, it probably would have to be like 80 or 75 at the lowest.
And even that, that all like the challenge with that is like, you know, that's a product that is now all of a sudden a low margin product,
right?
And it's going to take a lot of your capital off that would otherwise go to pay for artists or pay for this. It's sucking it up into this thing. What were the minimums that you were looking at for that? Was it 500 per?
Right, so
500 at $45.
Right, 500. That's the low price. So of course, if I do like 10,000, I can get it down to like maybe 20. I don't know, but you know.
But even that,
storage,
you know,
the storage for 10,000 of action figures, I don't know how that.
And the shipping, like the shipping fees, like we do plush toys for our children's book brand, and you know, during COVID, like the cost to ship, and it was the biggest order I put in, you know, over like about 5,000 total units of plush toys, and some of them were actually pretty big, but we took up an entire shipping container, and the costs quadrupled. So I was expecting 2,500. The cost was 10,000, and that was just the shipping cost to get it from China to our warehouse.
To your warehouse,
and so, you know, these bulky, more bulky, like not everything ships as nicely and compactly as comic books, unfortunately.
Right.
So yeah, these are challenges, but you know, the nice thing about these launches and things is that they do give you the opportunity to take some chances, take some swings, but you want to make them calculated. I think Rob did a really cool thing with his Kickstarter where he knew that not all of his fans are going to be down for a plush toy. So he paired that launch with a connecting covers of his first 6 issues. So taking advantage of some resources that he already had, but still offering something new that his comic fans could come out with. So that's probably, you know, an approach. I almost wonder if like you wouldn't want to, like, you know, if you had to offer a toy at $100, it also, maybe it also pairs with like a rare.
Oh, it would
cover or
have to.
something
I
like
had that without a doubt. Even
Yeah.
if when I was doing this, whatever it is, I would want to have one of the books in there, just to give it that exclusivity and give them something extra, because they could make some of that cost back by if they want to sell it on eBay, or just make that cost back by the value of the item itself. And having it and saying, hey, I've got the statue and I've got this cool book that was only available on the Kickstarter for that statue. Um, they were suggesting putting the statue itself on the cover, which actually is kind of cool. So that's another idea. I'm not sure how popular that would be cover-wise, but just having a fantastic artist or having the art that was used to make the statue as the book, something like that, or if it's one from a previous release, having it re-released in a different version, different color or homage to that or something, just to make it more exciting. So absolutely, I was even thinking, of course, I'd have the stat. My original was to have the Patriotica, and then she's got a black suit where her whole suit is black, and a white suit. And so I was going to have all three, and then have, a set where if you bought all three, you'd get metal covers too. And so, just to add the value to it and make it more worthwhile. But again, just for one single figure, it's just very difficult. And even with the book. And that's where it would be kind of an experiment. Would my fans come out?
Yeah.
I'd also have to worry. I am also worried about the goal I would set. Normally I set a low goal because that's not something at this point, now that I've done the Kickstarters, I've got so many awesome fans that I know they're going to plow through those goals. And so, I set a low goal just to get it out of the way. And, but with this, I would have to set a realistic, statistically calculated goal where, this particular Kickstarter I just launched, I think it was 5,000 my goal. But on action figure, I would have to set it to like 50K to start with.
And that's not even break even, probably.
Right. No,
it's crazy.
It is not. It is not. And it would have to be like 65K, I think, is what it was. And that's such a goal that there's a whole. I always see Kickstarters as kind of like a living organism. You have to feed it, and you have to maintain its morale, keep it happy, and that morale. If you're not at your goal right away, that morale will drop. So you want to get to that goal, and then now you've got the momentum. It's like a snowball effect. But if you're trying to get it to that goal and it's really far away, that's why I always tell people, don't set your goal too high when you first start, because otherwise it's like an uphill battle.
Yeah.
But once you get past your goal, okay, now your fans will be happy because, hey, we got it. It's happening. Now let's make it bigger, get more fans in, get more stuff. But at 65K, that's and of course, my Patriotica Kickstarter made about 15 the first day, but that's for my books. This is like a statue, or an action figure, something completely different. Where a lot of my 1,000 people that back Patriotica might not come and buy an action figure. Maybe like I don't know how many. I don't know. It's like a mystery to me. How many of them would come and pick up an action figure? And a lot of people tell me that it's not going to be a Patriotica fan, but there's a lot of action figure collectors that will come just for the action figure itself because they collect action figures. So and again, that's a market that I don't know. It would be a whole new game, basically. Knowing where to advertise for them, how to reach out to them, how to let them know about it, and to get them to come to my Kickstarter. So it's just a lot of like variables that are kind of up in the air, And so it's like, okay, I know how to launch a Kickstarter that will with a book that will do well, but I don't know a lot of things about an action figure Kickstarter or a statue. Again, I would look to the statue too. I kind of wish I went for the statue first, because that I could see paying $100, $200 for it. That's what I see them for at conventions and stuff. But an action figure, I see them at conventions sometimes for $20, and I'm just like,
how do you make that work?
How do you compete with that?
So one of the things I noticed on your campaign that I thought was kind of cool, and I don't see a ton, is you have a high, like a premium level pledge where someone can offer or order their own custom cover from one of the artists that's you have on sort of on board or on standby.
Right.
And can you talk about that and how that goes over? And is it retailers that are buying those, like
Right. So
the
that's
individual fans? Yeah.
basically targeted to retailers, but there's plenty of people who like are collectors and they just want to have like, oh, it's my own book and nobody else. I had one guy, he'd always pick up that tier. And it was because he told, and I asked him, so do you want me to promote for you to let my fans know where they can buy it? And he was like, no, no, all 100 are mine. I'm keeping them. It's, he's happy that he has the full run of one particular cover. So for him, it's very exciting. And he's a big fan of the artist. So, I'll use some of the most popular artists. In this particular case, it's Katie Chan and Lena Dai. And they are two of my rock star artists that, like, my fans really love. So you get a cover by those artists, and if you're a retailer, you're going to do great with the sales. Or if you're a fan and you want to have 100 for yourself, or throw a few on eBay, over time, that's another option too. You've got this fantastic artist that is providing the cover art, and within reason, I let them do whatever cover they want. Of course, they can't have some other, there's all the rules that you'd expect. But typically people just want something like, oh, whatever they think is cool, or I like this particular character, can they be cosplaying of this? Yeah, that's fine. It's just, as long as it's not another indie book, that's fine. Whatever they want to have on their cover. So, and if they are a retailer, I tell them to come and promote it on the Olympus Legion's Facebook group. That way people go in there and they're able to buy the book. So there's a lot of retailers I work with directly, and they do the exclusives. And this is just like a way for the retailer to come and support the Kickstarter by picking those up and helping the Kickstarter go even further.
Yeah, love it, love it. I'm curious, and we're coming up. We just passed an hour, so I know you're in the middle of a Kickstarter launch. I don't want to take you too long, but so much experience, Ron, so much good ideas and things that I'd love to ask you about. I'm curious, one of the things that obviously we're sort of in an age now on Kickstarter where routinely there is like this sort of class of project that is, driven by some sort of cheesecakey, sexy art, a lot of variant covers. And there are a lot of those projects out there. And those projects tend to do very well on Kickstarter, but they're also projects that Kickstarter itself doesn't spend a lot of its effort like pushing. And like they rarely give those projects we love.
Yeah.
And
I've never had it. 16 campagons.
Yeah, right.
150K,
16 campaigns.
150K.
You're one of their top earners, but they won't love you. But that hasn't stopped you. But I also
they love
know
my money, but not my fans' money. They love my fans' money, but they don't love my campaigns.
But I also know things like Facebook advertising, like you might have trouble like running ads to your Kickstarter pages because of the content, and I'm curious, like, what has worked for you in terms of actually getting eyeballs and growing the Mount Olympus fan base, and getting new people to discover your work, if you're not getting, if some of those other avenues aren't, pushing hard on your behalf. What's worked for you?
Well, it's a lot of things. So, because there's no like magic item, like one thing where it's just do this and you'll get 1 million people. Sadly, there isn't. No. There's a lot of things. The very first Patriotica, I was very fortunate. A lot of YouTubers caught on and shared it, and that's what really helped tremendously. And then after that, it's been Facebook advertising, conventions, a lot of conventions, Twitter, Instagram, promoting there. But that's like, everybody knows that. The one thing that really helps though is by me working with so many artists, like you said, they're not, there's no rule that says they have to share. But of course, I tremendously appreciate it when my artists share the campaigns. And so it brings those artist fans in, and they might say, oh, wow, I like these other books, or I like this story. Wow, I want to continue with it. And so I think by working with so many artists, that also has helped increase my fan base, because they come for that artist and then they stay because of the story or because of other artists or just the whole thing. and you know, multiple things. It's not just one thing. You have to do the uh, conventions. You have to do shows like we're doing now. You have to promote. Um, Facebook was so much better when I first started promoting wise. Like I used very little money, and I could see, that there's a way for Kickstarter to tell you, oh, this is where it's coming from. The link, I forget what they're called, but those links at Kickstarter that you can create in the back
Yeah,
end
the
of
referral
Kickstarter.
links. Yeah.
Yeah, the referral links are a wonderful tool that I don't see hardly anyone using, and they will get you a lot of information. I can't stress enough how wonderful those were for me in the beginning to know, oh, this is working, this is not working. And so I used those like a lot when I first started. And it helped me see, okay, well, I'm not getting much here, but it's still worth it, enough traffic. Now, unfortunately, I found out that if you're using those referral links and you come to Kickstarter and you're like, oh, it's cool, but maybe I'll back it later, and you hit remind me, you leave, you come back, Kickstarter is going to take the credit as if they did it. They'll be like, oh, this person just randomly found your page. Because now I'm not getting the information like I was in the beginning. In the beginning, it was much more, it would tell you where it's coming from, every single link, and it was great. But the short answer is you have to do multiple things. You have to do as much as you can. Have artists share, have your friends share, you share. Beyond, you just gotta keep telling people about it, and pre-promotion. Tyler, I can't tell you how many times I see a Kickstarter that just pops up and I'm like, where did this come from? Or, tell me it's already like half done. And I'm like, I didn't hear anything about this, just, or let me get it on it, or I miss it. There's lots of Kickstarters that I miss, and I'm just like, I would have backed that. Even big ones. Like there was a Vampire Hunter D one, the very first Vampire Hunter D. And I was just shocked that how did I hear about that? I love Vampire Hunter D. I wish I had known, I would have backed it. So it's like that pre-promotion is such a big thing. So it helps get people in if you want to build those numbers.
Absolutely.
So just everything really is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
You have to do all the footwork.
And what's this going to look on the back end when all this product starts coming in? Do you have it seems like this is going to be it's a massive undertaking. Do you have a team that's in place? Do you get help? Do you get to organize this stuff?
Yeah, I've got a team that does the stretch goal preparation. I've got a team that does there's the printers, and the printers, fortunately, also one of the printers that I use does fulfilling also. So they're kind of like the last ones to print. So, I get all the metal and particulars printed first, and all the specialty stretch goal stuff. So then one team goes to work and assembles that. Now another team assembles the other thing. And then it all comes to the last printer, who takes everything, prints the last things, and packages and ships it. Wow. So that's kind of like my process right now. But, I'm always trying to find a more efficient way. Of course, if there was just one team, it's always the best thing. But the price is just much, much higher, unfortunately, because some teams don't specialize in things, and whereas another one might. I've never used a fulfillment company, like an actual fulfillment. There's so many fulfillment companies since I started that I always hear about. And so I'm always wondering, what's that like? I did look into one, but they wanted barcodes, and there was no way on earth I'm going to slap barcodes on my books. And then I was thinking, okay, well, maybe I could do a sticker, but then that ups the price. I got to pay for stickers where I put a sticker on each bag for them to have a barcode.
Yeah.
And that's also work. I got to make sure the right barcode stickers on everything. Some more quality control work.
Yeah. And that it's the challenge of comics is that a lot of the, I used Amazon one time for a Kickstarter fulfillment, and, worked pretty well on a hardcover, but for individual comics, like sometimes those Amazons, they send you a box that's like 6 times too big for the thing that they're shipping. Like that wouldn't work with individual comics or things like that. And getting, someone that's probably at a warehouse getting paid close to minimum wage to care about how stuff is going to show up. They're just going to
grab it on the spine. And now, that's a big deal. It's the 9.8. Everyone wants that 9.8 or 9.9 or 10.
Yeah. The only downside of charging, a premium price for your variants and things like that is if it doesn't show up at in a
Perfect.
pristine condition,
Yeah.
your backers, you know, are kind of well within the right to say, hey, make this right for me, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and I mean that's something. If they tell me it's damaged, I always replace it. You know, I get it out to them. I just ask them to send me a picture. There it is. I'm like, okay, send it to the printer, get it reprinted, and send it out. But that is the danger of working with, you know, one of these shipping packet companies, is they're just gonna manhandle your stuff.
Yeah.
And you know, one of the very first printers I worked with, they had never done a Kickstarter before, so they sent me. You know, I ordered about 300 books, and they sent it all shrink wrapped together,
Mm.
and but they weren't even bagged and boarded, and they were shrink wrapped in a way where it went across the center of the spine. So like, you know, 100 books had that dent
Mm.
from the shrink wrap, and because it didn't bag and board it, I guess it must have been in a storm somewhere. So like half the books were soaked. You know, I had to throw all those away. Yeah, it was just a disaster.
Yeah.
And so that's a risk that you run when you're working with companies that aren't familiar with this whole keep the book pristine, or as, you know, best, you know, as mint condition as possible, knowing how to handle the book. You know, anyone I've worked with, the people that have helping me with the stretch goal stuff, even that I tell them, okay, you got to be careful where you grab it, you know, put it in gently when you put, if they were handling it before they used to do the books for me, and they would, you know, I'd ask them, don't grab it by the spine. Whatever you do, don't grab it by the spine. Grab the book from the side, or the top, or the bottom, and, you know, put it in there gently. So, you know, get that one take on the spine, and no one wants it. So like,
Yeah, it's definitely something that on the fulfillment side and the vendor side, it's important that they really, you know, understand this market so that they don't do something that's just like, it's going to hurt all of us, because we're going to be angry in it and asking for reprints. They're going to be angry because,
right.
you know, they don't quite understand. But it is sort of a change. You know, comics used to be kind of a disposable medium that
Right.
you know, it's paper with staples on it, and I understand from the printer's perspective. It's like, you know, you're complaining about a mark that's that's like this tiny on paper that already has
Right.
staples punched through it.
Right.
Really? And it's like, yeah, somebody paid $60 for this, really.
Yeah, or hundreds or thousands. You know, when
Yeah.
you're talking about the collectible older Marvel stuff that's going for like $1 million or whatever. You know, one tick will take off $10,000 value or whatever for those older. You know, I'm comparing to the older ones, but even with the modern stuff, you know, you'll lose most of the value if it has any kind of damage on it.
Absolutely.
So it's gotta be mint, and it's always like you have to explain to them, you gotta keep it without any damage at all. Yeah, the staple is 2 staples. Don't go beyond 2 staples either, because that was a whole controversy recently. I'm sure you heard about. And so it's all this like, it's got to be perfect.
Got to be perfect, pretty much. Yeah. Well, Ron, I know you've got a Kickstarter to get back to, so I don't want to take up too much more of your time, but I would love to hear just any, as you're heading into the final 48 hours, are we all set? Is everything launched for Patriotica, or do you got a few more surprises in store?
No, there's always, you know, so traditionally the last day I'm just like, I just sit back and watch, because, you know, it's pretty stressful, and I'm like, okay, there's not much, honestly, on the last day. It's kind of, and I'm talking Friday, so the last 12 hours, there's not much you can do, because anything you put out on social media, it's going to be unlikely that it'll get shared enough where people will see it, but before it ends. You still do it because, you know, I still promote,
Yep.
but I'm not on it like, oh, you know, going crazy, and like, because it's just not going to do much, especially the last few hours. Anything you post in the last few hours, people aren't going to see until the next day, most likely. And so the last day, I think, easy. But tomorrow, there's still, I mean, what is it today? Wednesday? So we still have, for sure, tomorrow or something. And then I am contemplating having something on Friday to test it out, because I haven't done it in a long time where I haven't had on a Friday, but I'm going to try it out this time. It's kind of a now or never, because, you know, it's the last day. You got 12 hours to grab that last cover. But
yeah,
and I'm contemplating. It's always like, and that's another thing. It's always last minute. I feel like you got to be dodging and moving and adjusting the whole campaign, not just like hit it, let it go. Oh, that cover's not doing well. Oh well.
Yeah,
you just got to keep going on it.
We had a stretch goal for one of our previous campaigns that people were like, you know, really excited about. It was like the first cosplay cover that we ever offered. But we sort of had announced that it was going to be attached to a certain funding milestone. And then even though the campaign was like moving at a clip, like we had a couple drops at the and it was like, it just took longer than we anticipated to get to that next funding milestone. So we were already kind of locked in, but we did hit it and we unlocked it on the last day. And so one thing that I actually did that worked pretty well was, you know, we didn't say you could only get it on that last day. And then when the backer kit survey came out, I actually built a specific question that said, hey, you might have missed this, but in our last day, this cover was unlocked. Right. And then there was just a you know, yes, add it to my backer kit for $20, or cool cover, but no thanks.
Right.
And we made every physical backer like see that and make an actual choice.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Like I think we sold an extra 50 copies just doing that.
Nice. No, backer kits is wonderful like that. Yeah. I definitely have. You know, I have a whole strategy for backer kit. I see that too. Here's a survey. Come back in a week. Okay, it's done. No, I'm on it for that whole week. I'm like, come on out, check it out. If you missed the campaign, here's your chance.
Yeah.
Now I will say I also have a lot of things that don't come back. I mean, there's got to be a incentive to back while it's live. So there's a lot of like the Now or Never or the Vanishing Tears. None of those things. Well, the Vanishing Tears, I have to check to see how I wrote it up. If they're coming back afterwards. But I mean, the point is they vanished. You know, they're not going to be there. So you got to know now.
I mentioned that in the title of this. Just what's the difference between a Vanishing Tear and a Now or Never cover, or is there some crossover there? Like, what's your approach there?
So the Vanishing Tear will last 1 week, and so you got to get it before that week is up, and then a new one pops in. You know, once that one vanishes, the new one rolls in, and again you got a week to pick it up. I also had a very specific thing where each of the Vanishing Tears had a big name artist I hadn't. I think that I hadn't worked with before. I hadn't worked with for a long time. So that kind of gives it that extra, oomph for each one. Like I had Jim Ballant and Fred Perry, which, to me, it was my first time working with them. And they're both like tremendous comic book legends. So those were part of the thing. And then on the other side, it was like big time fan favorites that I had for each of the Vanishing Tears. So, you have a week. That's the biggest difference, is you have a week, but it is still a week. And again, I'm still contemplating whether or not I'll have them in this backer kit survey. They are also limited to 50. So if they sold out, which one of them I think is pretty close, I think it's at 48. There's no way I'm going to just throw it in for just 2. In case there's damage or whatever, I might as well just leave it at 48. But the other ones that only had like 30 or something, okay, I've got 20 I can throw onto the backer kit if need be. So part of it is the limited time, and part of it there's only 50. Now the Now or Nevers, they don't have I don't think I set a limit on how many you can get, but it's only 24 hours.
Yeah.
So that's what makes them more of you got to get it because it's going to be gone. Plus, the Now or Never is really now or never. Those are more like I won't ever use them again. Like some of the covers, I might get a different colorist, or I might have the artist come back and do some adjustments to make a new variation. I might do a metal, I might do a hollow foil, something like that with the Vanishing Tear covers. But the Now or Never, I'm not doing anything with. That's it. They were done. They came out as they are, and that's it. I feel I did contemplate like maybe at some point like Patriotica number 10, I might do like here's all the Now or Nevers in metal. If you missed them, you can get them in metal, but that's it. And only 10 of each. I might do something like that. But again, I'm like, but it's now or never. I kind of want to honor that. And be like, that's it. You get them, and that's it. But I also see my fans saying, I wish this was in metal. And it's like, okay, that is, I want to make my fans happy too. So if I get enough fans that tell me, yeah, we would love to see some of these Now or Nevers in metal or hollow foil, then I'll be like, okay, let me think about it. If I get enough people telling me that. But if they don't, I just keep it as is, where, you got to grab these Now or Nevers. Maybe I'll try a metal Now or Never at some point, or say here it is in paper and metal, but it's gone tomorrow, or hollow foil. But hollow foil, I mean, for me, is not as cool as metal or as successful as metal is. On the Kickstarter, yes, I get a lot of hollow foils, but on my Etsy shop, not as much as I do metal and regular. So that's kind of what my fans seem to like the most.
Yeah, it's just a kind of a cool how the industry is evolving and what fans are looking for, and it really is it's a conversation, and a big part of it is listening to what your audience is asking for, and then giving it to them in a format that's going to work financially and successfully for you. So I think that's kind of like been a big theme of this is making smart decisions to serve the audience that might feel otherwise underserved by some other publishers or fan bases or things, and giving them what they're really asking for. And I think you've done a great job with that, Ron, with this
Thank you.
and everything. Before we let you go, do you want to just tease what the rest of 2023 looks like for Mount Olympus Comics?
Yeah, so we got the Patriotica Kickstarter ending in 2 days, so that's pretty much the super focus for the next couple of days. But then after that, we are doing Mad Wolf and Cop. That is it's a spin-off of Patriotica. There is a character in Patriotica who was Patriotica empowered in one of the earlier issues, and so she's going to have her own series. It's kind of like a Beauty and the Beast with a police officer girl and the werewolf character. So that'll be my next big Kickstarter. It's a brand new series. We'll see how it is. I'm hoping to launch that in the spring. Just depends on how fulfillment goes for everything.
Yep.
And then after that, in the summer, I'm looking at a Samurai of Oz. Now the question is whether it's going to be Samurai of Oz #5, or it might be a spin-off of Samurai of Oz. It's kind of an alternate universe. And again, it's something that the fans kind of brought to my attention. They really loved. I did a God of War Dorothy cover. Dorothy being the main character of Samurai of Oz, and she's more buff and more savage-like, and people really liked it, and I got a lot of feedback for it. So I thought, what would be kind of cool is if I did a alternate universe Dorothy set in that. So I might fast forward that and put that in place for the summer. So the summer's still kind of up in the air. I could also just drop another Valkyrie then. So there's a couple of options. I prefer to try to focus on what's next, which right now next is the Patriotica finish, and then Mad Wolf and Cop. I had originally planned to do a 4-in-1. I'm sure you heard about that book, the most successful Kickstarter ever. That I think it was the 4 season. I forget what it was called. A very famous writer.
The Brandon Sanderson.
Yes, that's the one. So I kind of wanted to, I saw that and I was like, hey, why not? But I realized the problem with that is that Kickstarter wants you to fulfill within a certain amount of time.
Yeah.
And if I did 4 books that were released over a year, it would kind of conflict with Kickstarter rules. So unfortunately, for now, I'm breaking it up. I'm still working on how I could do that.
So Kickstarter, they clarified this, and comics is one of those categories that has like a special dispensation. So they actually say if you are a creator in good standing, which means 4 successfully funded, fully funded books, then you can launch, I think it's up to 4 Kickstarters before fulfilling a previous Kickstarter.
Right.
Which is nice. So, you're sort of in that. Yeah. Like I'm still someone that, all things being equal, it's probably better not to launch the next one before the last one was delivered to your backers. But especially when you have multiple series, multiple creative teams, that from a publishing standpoint, that just becomes kind of logistically difficult.
Right. And I mean, if you have multiple teams, then that's eventually I want to have a team, multiple teams. I'm already, looking at branching off and having so there's Mount Olympus, and then I have something called Mount Olympus Crimson, where it'll be more mature books, more blood and gore, a little sexier, and just different stories, different universe, and that I would rather have another team that's helping me with that. So that would be under its own thing on Kickstarter. It wouldn't be under Ron Zabala. It would be Mount Olympus Crimson and whoever I can get to head that for me but I would still be, very much involved with all the writing and directing and artist managing and all that stuff. So so that's another thing that I've got in the works is some Olympus Crimson titles. I teased them to my fans. I had at one point I did a roadmap, but unfortunately, COVID kind of totally disrupted the whole.
A lot of post-it notes get moved around when.
Yeah. So I mean, those books are still all well underway. I've got the writing going. I've got actually a couple of them written already. Mad Wolf and Cop is done, but there is Made of Metal. That's another series that I've got in development, also set in the Patriotica universe. And then after Made of Metal, I've got Samurai of Wonderland. So it's set in the Samurai of Oz universe. And then after that, I've got Mock Sirens. Mock Sirens is its own universe, and there's a lot of mystery to it, and that's kind of what I'm trying to make part of the fun of that series. It is related to Valkyrie Saviors and Patriotica and Samurai of Oz, and even though all three of them are in their own universes, this book has connections to all three. But that's the one that's coming later.
Yeah,
so.
And is about, like, in an ideal world, is about 4 launches what you would like to, 4 launches a year, kind of.
That would be, although I see a lot of my peers are launching like every other month, and I'm just like, how?
Yeah.
It's great because I would love to get more of my stories out, and so that would be a wonderful thing for me to reach. But for right now, 4 is I've been doing 3. Last year I had a major medical issue, and so this is the first campaign since last summer that I've had. But so I had to take 6 months off pretty much, or, recovering. And it's something that I do want to get to, at least 4 a year, and if I can manage it and be successful with it and my fans are happy, then do more than 4. Yeah. But right now, 4 is what I'm aiming for, because then I can get more of my stories out. And then eventually the stories go on my Etsy or even webcomics. I've got a webcomic, Collateral D. A lot of my most talented artists are involved on it. So I always tell people, go check out my webcomic, Collateral D. Look it up. It's on Tapas. Or you go to monolympuscomics.com. I've got a link on there. You can go straight to it. It's also set in the Patriotica universe. And I could even do, that's actually there, set up, ready to be a Kickstarter itself. I've got 2 books done. It's only digital right now. But of course, they're all created in a format not for webcomic, but for a standard comic. Now, I'm releasing them as a webcomic, but they're made to be a comic eventually. So that's another Kickstarter that potentially could happen even this year. It's Collateral D. I've had my fans ask. So we'll see.
Yeah. So you've been using that as sort of like a webcomic exclusive to drive interest into the whole universe.
Yes, you want everything. So, whatever avenues you can use, Patreon. I haven't done Patreon yet, but I want to. But webcomics, conventions, everything. Whatever you can use, get out there. Get your people out there. Get your characters out there. Get your stories out there as much as you can, as many places as you can.
Yeah. Well, Ron, I'm glad to hear you're totally on the mend and back in business here on Kickstarter.
I can't even make a fist. So I had nerve damage.
Wow.
So you see, I can go like this here, but this hand, and I'm taking a bunch of medication to keep me from pain. Like even this is kind of painful to do.
Oh boy.
But and so you can imagine as a writer, or typing to my artists all day, it becomes painful after a while.
Yeah.
And so that's it was a rough 6 months, but thank you. Yes, I am on the mend, doing better finally, but still hurting. But gotta keep. The show must go on. So
yeah, your fans are demanding it, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, I appreciate you sharing all your wisdom. This is exciting stuff, and I know that the last 56 hours or so are going to be crazy over on your campaign. So I'll let you get back to it. But I appreciate you taking the time and sharing your hard-won wisdom.
Looks like we disconnected.
And we can't wait to see what you all launch next.
Awesome. Thank you so much for having me on the show. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Ron.